we all doing? We've got with us today, I'm going to start from the top left on my screen, Steve Goodwin. We've got Mickey Helliet, we've got Kevin Campion, and we've got Greaves. How are you all, gents?
All good?
All good.
Very good.
Right.
Excellent. So I think we'll start off, for those people that may not be familiar with all of your names and faces, just frame yourselves a little bit in terms of who you all are. We'll skip over Steve, given it's going on your channel. People will know you are anyway. Let's go, Mickey. Give people an idea of some of the names and faces that you've been dealing with in boxing over the years and what you do now.
Right. I am a manager, promoter, matchmaker, basically every job in boxing probably I've done at some point. Yeah, managed a good few guys and put shows on fairly regularly at York Hall. Obviously not at the moment because of the pandemic. Mainly non-TV, same as Steve, very similar business model, I would say probably. Yeah, just enjoy bringing fighters through, taking them up to the level where they can fight on TV, and then work with a few people who are, you know, world champions, British champions, European, you know, stuff like that. So, bit of everything.
Chuck some names at us, Mickey. Daryl Williams, the most recent one, I guess, isn't he?
Was do you know Danny Williams? I got told by loads of people, "Oh, you'll have nightmares with him." When I first signed him, because I used to make fights from overseas, and then I got a phone call one day saying, first, no, he asked me, he goes, "Look, you get me more money. You want to manage me?" So I said, "Yeah, of course." You know, he's a big name at the time. He was British heavyweight champion, so I was like, "Yeah." As soon as I signed him, I had like a flurry of phone calls saying, "Oh, you'll have nightmares with him." Like, listen, he's a very, very gentle, nice guy. Nice guy, good to deal with. He definitely was at the end of his career. I mean, I really, he went, before I signed him, he went in the prize fighter and he got beat and he looked absolutely shocking. He just looked terrible, you know. Like, and I remember Danny like winning the ABAs, being like a top British fighter. But I knew he was temperamental, you know, very hot and cold. So I thought, if we can get him right, maybe we get the performance out of him. But he boxed, he had one fight with Chisora.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, after the fight, I sat down with him afterwards at West Ham United's football ground, the old the bowling. And I just said to him, I said, "Look, that's me done. I said, Danny, look, you want my honest opinion, don't box anymore. You know, he's got family, he's got kids." And he said, yeah, no, I get it. He goes, that's me done. And then I just saw on BoxRec he was fighting in Hungary and wherever else he's been boxing. He's earning quite decent money, but you know, health's got to, for me, I think for most of us, you know, health's got to come first.
Yeah, he puts his kids through private school with it, doesn't he? I think that's his reasoning for still going.
It's such a shame because obviously the win over Mike Tyson is unbelievable. I was watching it yesterday, funny enough, and I did put a little tweet out. I mean, what an unbelievable win that was. And for him to carry on too long, Mickey, I mean, such a shame.
Yeah, and you know, look, this it is a shame, right? It is a shame, but for me, the worst thing isn't for the fact that his legacy, if you like, is gonna, like, if you go on BoxRec and look at his record, you're gonna see like a string of losses against people you've never heard of. But that's nowhere near as bad. We know it's not like a maybe. We know the human body is not meant to take punches in the head. Certainly not when you're not at your fastest and quickest anymore. And he's way past. Like, when he boxed Chisora, I wish that he hadn't boxed. He was in such bad condition. But I knew what he's like. His personality is very hot and cold, especially with boxing. Right? He can perform red hot, and no one understands why. The next day, he doesn't even want to be there. Just tell he doesn't. He absolutely. And then another day, he wants to fight till his back teeth get knocked out. So we rolled the dice. I thought we'll take the chance. You know, it's British title. If he wins it, he's right back in there. But this is the worst thing. The worst thing is that someone like him, who's very, very brave and is accustomed to fighting at a high level. So they offer him like someone in the top 10. That's the people that get hurt. That's the guys. That will end up. You can lose your eyesight, your reflexes, your mental capacities. That's the big for me. Like, yeah, his legacy will get dented, will get tarnished because of the losses, but his health, you can't do it. If you lose your health, you can't do anything.
Yeah,
that's my thing is right. Your health's got to go first, and he will damage his health if he carries on. And every time I see him, he says, "Oh, no, but that's me done now. I'm done." And then on BoxRec, a month later, he sees boxing again. I mean, but how do you stop? He is the guy that knocked out Mike Tyson, so he can go to Hungary or wherever, and they can sell it as right. The guy that knocked out Mike Tyson's now fighting the local hero.
Or he'll fight that super featherweight up in Scotland. Is it Lee McAllister?
Yeah.
Good old Bieber. Right, we'll move on.
Sorry.
Kev, give people a quick overview of who you are, what you do.
So I work for Steve. Basically, I go around putting out the fires that Steve lights. It's predominantly my job. So I obviously do all the events for Goodwin Boxing. So all the promoters attached to Goodwin Boxing. I run the events. People know me mainly as the matchmaker, although I don't do as much matching as people think I do. The promoters tend to do some, but so anything sort of boxing event related or anything like that, and I tend to do for Goodwin Boxing. Just plug the gaps, pick up the slack for Steve is pretty much the best. Like I say, put out his fires that he starts.
And then we'll move on, Carl. So give people an overview of your background as well as your current.
Yeah, well, I'm a former professional fighter. Had 39 fights, 32 wins, 7 defeats. I'm a former Midlands area champion, WBF world champion, and 2 times British title challenger. Unfortunately, I failed a brain scan in 2005, a routine brain scan. And then straight away, I went straight into the business side of things. Something I've always wanted to do, always wanted to stay in boxing. I hadn't actually had my trainer's license in 2001. I got that while I was still boxing. Then in 2005, I got my manager's license. 2006, I got my promoter's license. I was only 29 when I got my promoter's license, so started very, very young. I've promoted 145 shows in that time, all over the country, and I've had 17 champions from area title level up to world title level. So it's gone really well, way better than I expected. I'm saying I'm a one-man band. I do most things myself, but I've got a lot of people in the background that I don't really bring into it. Obviously on the night and things, I've got a lot of people working for me. But yeah, it's been great and still going strong. I mean, obviously what's happening now has been a big blow to us all. But yeah, it's gone really well.
You boxed Carl Johansson, didn't you? Do I remember that?
Yeah, I boxed. I won. This is not a major world title. At the time, it was recognised by the Board of Control. I won the WBF world title at the Nottingham Arena on a great night. Obviously, local to me, Carl Froch was actually on the undercard, so it sounds even better now, doesn't it? But yeah, so it was when Mick Helliet was running the class of 2000. Obviously, John Ashton, my manager at the time, spoke to Mick, and obviously I was a local lad, sold big tickets, and Mick gave me the opportunity to fight for the WBF world title on that show. So I won that, convincing points win. I'd never defended it for a year, and then the funny story is I saw Audley Harrison was boxing for the WBF heavyweight world title. Somebody's remembered that at Wembley Arena. And I saw it, and I jumped on it. I rang John up, my manager, because even though I was a boxer, I always was thinking, I was always in the business side. My head was always, reeling off what I could do and giving him like options and things. And I said to John, look, I said, I ain't defending the WBF world title. I said, Audley Harrison's fighting for it at Wembley Arena. David A was actually on the bill as well. It was a big show. I'm trying to think who the promoter was now. I can't remember who the promoter was. It was BBC, it was a BBC show. It was actually on the show itself, of course it was. Yeah, he was the promoter. And so I said to John, I said, look, I'd love to defend the world title on that. I said, can you try and get me a fight on it? So he come back to me and he said, I said, I've spoke to Harry Holland, who was matchmaker. Also going back a few years now, and he said he's happy for you to defend your world title. He said, but it's got to be against this kid, Cole Johansson. It was Leeds based from Leeds, based in America. He'd had all his fighting career in America. So anyway, it's funny. I was always looking at this Cole Johansson because he was coming up in boxing who had the same name and obviously same weight, and I was like looking at him as my future opponent, but I knew it was an handful. Anyway, I agreed to the fight. I think at the time he was 16-0, 13 knockouts and 1 draw against Koba Kobalazi, who was a European amateur champion, Olympian and all that. So he was a great fighter. So anyway, I took the fight, but I said, can you get me, it was videos back in then times. He said, can you get me a video, John? I said, of him. So I got a video sent from America. Well, I'd never ever studied opponents, ever. I saw when I boxed Gomez, he was obviously on Sky. I watched him a few times and Arthur, but all the others I never really bothered looking into. But I tell you what, it was the worst thing I ever did. I got sent this video with him from America, and he was blasting everybody out, knocking them out, looking brilliant. So it was a bit of a silly match, really. But listen, I always had bottle. That's one thing I had. And I went in there. I'd well outgrown the weight. I mean, I was 7 pounds over the morning of the weigh-in. I was in an hot bath from 6 o'clock in the morning until 12 o'clock in and out. I mean, it was crazy, the story there. And I actually got to the weigh-in and saw the side of him and thought, I want to smash you. I want to walk all over you. But obviously, looks and size you deceived. And when we got in the ring, obviously, I was a lot bigger naturally. But it was a great fight. And look how well he went on to do. So there was no shame in that.
Yeah. One thing I've always wondered with you and Mickey, because Mickey, you were quite a good amateur, weren't you, back in the day?
I was all right.
I saw the ratings the other day, actually, Mickey. He was doing all right.
Yeah, I was in there. Exactly. I was a good puncher. For amateur boxing, I had a lot of knockouts.
Yeah, I heard you were better than all right. But yeah, you two coming from a boxing background. What do you make of Steve coming to boxing not from a boxing background?
Do you know what? I do think it's a big disadvantage to have, and I see it not just with Steve. You see a lot of people who are successful in one area of business, and maybe their business might be like not that exciting. I don't even know, Steve, what your business is actually. I know it's to do with financial, you know, pensions and stuff. I think, yeah, financial advice. But a lot of people come in with a lot of money, but you can't really buy that knowledge and that experience that you pick up along the way. At the same time, look, if you've got experience in other areas, there's stuff I ain't got experience in, you know. But I just think from a matchmaking point of view and developing, if you're bringing a fighter through from scratch, and you've got no budget, it's very difficult. If you've got that grounding, and that's why you have matchmakers. That's why you have people, you know, like any businessman, like, say, Alan Sugar. He has a lot of pathfinders. So if Alan Sugar buys, you know, Arsenal football team, right, or, you know, any football team, he would have
pretty cheap right now, so.
Pardon? Yeah, very cheap. After last night, but right now. But okay, so he would have pathfinders. He'd have people that he'd bring in, and they would fill those gaps, sort of thing. He doesn't, you know, like the top guys don't need a Roman Abramovich. They don't have to have experience in football tactics. I guess it would help them, but it's a different dynamic, really, when you get into the higher levels. Once you've got like a big TV deal, the whole business, or even when I worked for TV promotions, they're relying on me for that, basically, to know this guy's record is 7-7, but he's very dangerous. That
Yeah.
guy's 10-0, but he's a walk in the park for this guy. You know, that's what they want. So I'm glad in a way that I took the path that I did, putting a lot of my eggs in one basket with boxing, because even though I actually failed my brain scan, like Carl, at least you had your little run of fights. You won some titles. I was watching some of Carl's fights the other day. Lovely left hooks, really beautiful left. I mean, funny enough, I had a lot of stoppages. Actually, left hook to the body I used to stop a lot of people with, and right hand to the head. I did stop a couple with left hook to the chin, but in the amateurs, it's funny, they ask you to turn your hand over. And I think that...
Yeah, never did.
Yeah, like that. But the thing is, I would hit someone with a hook there, with the knuckle, and the referee would say, "Oh, stop, that's a slap."
Yeah, crazy.
But over and over it would happen. So it just, in the end, I thought, I just can't really be, even if it's effective. And I remember one fight, I hit an Asian kid. My fist must have travelled 2 inches. He had his back to the ropes. I hit him with a really short left hook with my hand like that on my knuckle, and it stopped him. It knocked him out. And the referee said, "Well, do you know what? It looked like a slap." You can't knock someone out with a slap. A slap is that.
Yeah.
It's cupping with, you know. Anyway, sorry, I'm digressing.
Right, there's coaching with Mickey Helliet. What do you reckon, Carl, to Steve's kind of, and I know how Steve works, so everything, you know, whether it be boxing or financial advising, it's almost like everything is pieces on a chessboard.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Sorry, carry on.
No, I was just going to say, what do you think to his kind of approach into it outside of a boxing perspective?
Yeah, well, obviously Steve's got a great work ethic. I mean, he's proved that on all the businesses he's doing. And he's obviously putting a lot of shows on. He's working very, very hard. I mean, obviously, like what Mickey said, I mean, obviously experience being there and doing that is great to have. But money talks in boxing. I mean, Steve's fortunate to have a few quid and obviously brought it into boxing. So he's doing really well. I mean, I'm not so fortunate. I mean, I've had nobody behind me. I'm like, get the violins out type of thing now, because I've had no one behind me. I've never had really had a lot of money, never had no backing. Everything I've brought into boxing is from me, what I've done myself, either from obviously the money I earned from fighting, which wasn't the money that it should have been, considering some of the big fights I had. I never got paid, like, nowhere near, looking back now, what I should have done. But even though I'm not a businessman, I'm very, very clever at earning a few quid, if you know what I mean. I've always never been dodgy, always been straight, but always known how to earn money. I've done every job going. I've been a market trader. I've had my own pine furniture business. I set that up with peanuts, and it turned out a very successful business, making pine furniture. I can remember the days when I was travelling down to Wandsworth Bridge Road with a 7-tonner full of pine furniture and coming back with 5 or 6 grand, you know what I mean? It was great times, and I've just used all that, and I'm a very, very generous person, but I know how to earn a few quid, if you know what I mean. So going back to Steve, he's like me. I can see he's the same sort of mentality as me, knows how to earn money and all that, but he's been fortunate enough that he's come into boxing with money. Whereas I never. I've had to keep going and I've been very, very fortunate. I don't lose very often on my shows. Apparently, it's not great saying that, but I'm quite fortunate. You know what I mean? I've always had quite good ticket sellers around me, and I'm lucky that where I promote North isn't nowhere near as got the cost of you lads have got down in the South promoting. I mean, to put a show in the South, I mean, I was putting little shows in at Greaves Civic Hall, they was peanuts, really. But the overhead you have at promoting at York Hall and bigger venues like that, I don't have none of that down here. I'm lucky enough, really, I sometimes get my venues for nothing. So, and you don't get that down your way. But I can remember Steve from from many years ago when he first come into boxing. He used to, and he'll admit, he used to ring me up for a bit of advice. You know what I mean? He was working with, he got involved with Harry Matthews, and I was managing Harry at the time. He knew Harry Matthews' dad, and that's how it sort of went with you, Steve, didn't it?
Well,
I
only did one fight with him. That's all I did. He just came on one show.
Yeah.
That's all we ever did. Yeah.
You used to ring me up and obviously ask me for a bit of advice and how to do things and that. And listen, it's fantastic what you've done. I mean, you've done a great job. And listen, I think one thing in boxing, you've always got to give each other a pat on the back. You know what I mean? Because it's a tough game. You know what I mean? We're all after the same thing. It's all like a little bit of a rivalry, but we're all good people. We're all good mates. We all like the crack. And you know what I mean? We're all in the same sort of thing. We want the best for our fighters at the end of the day. Some people's fortunate enough, the 3 or 4 promoters are fortunate enough to have TV, but they wouldn't be doing what we're doing with no TV. No way, no, not in a million years would they be doing what we're doing. You know what I mean? We go into shows, you don't know if you're going to make money, lose money. Most of it's not going to, you don't know until the night sometimes. You know what I mean? You've got a rough idea, but you know what I mean? It's very, very tough what we do.
But, you know, Colt, like in this business, in boxing, right? So many people come in, all guns blazing, you know, like I think there was a guy called Ken Purchase who was in Birmingham.
Oh, Mickey, listen, I'll just stop you there, mate. I've seen so many people in this game come and go. Listen, pro boxing is the easiest sport in the world to get a license. And that's one thing I'll say. It's like, I'm not going to go into names. There's so many in the game now who are in it to try and earn a quick buck, think they know what they're doing. They try talking to somebody like myself and you lads who are experienced. They think they know what they're talking about, but they don't. And that's the trouble you've got in this boxing game. There's too many in the game who haven't got a clue, but they've got a license, but yet they think they know the game.
Some of them don't even have a license.
Yes.
Oh, that is terrible as well. I mean, how can you be acting as a manager without a license on other people's, and you're getting more publicity and more airtime than anybody like us who's been in the game for years? It's crazy.
They can attempt to poach boxers from licensed managers, and licensed managers can't do nothing. That's what happens.
It's ridiculous, Steve. I know we spoke about this in the past.
It happens, and do you know what? If you say to the fighter, listen, he's talking complete garbage, don't listen to him. Yeah, of course, anyone can say, I can make you £1 billion, but I'm telling you, it's rubbish. And the fighters sometimes will go, yeah, but they can't afford to not believe what this idiot's just told them, just in case it's true. So you might have worked with this guy for like 3 or 4 or 5 years, helping him, building him up, building his profile, helping his boxing progress, doing all the things that you can do to make this fighter develop into something that's sellable. Because at the beginning, they're not sellable. They have to have the record. And then even if they've got the record, you can't take a 10-0 kid and just chuck him in against any old world champion, because you might get hurt. You know, this is boxing. People don't just, it's not like football where you might get beat 10-0. All right, that's terrible, but you don't lose your health. You don't lose your self-esteem, your confidence over it. In boxing, a guy gets hammered, that can be it. Take years to come back. But a guy, I mean, it's happened to me a lot of times. And it's not, normally it's not when they're right at the start. It's once you've done the donkey work to get them to that position where now TV stations are interested in them. He's got the record. He's boxed some sort of half-decent people and beat them. That's when they descend upon him. And if they can fill the guy's head with enough garbage, I've had guys, I'm just like, look, please tell me you don't seriously believe. Do you think if you could earn that much money for fight, we'd already be doing it? It's nonsense. And then, look, some of them stick with it, but I'd say probably the majority, because they get to know you while you're working with them, and you know, find it that they get it. But too high a percentage. And people that I sort of seen as being quite smart, I thought, right, yeah, this guy, he gets it. He's on it. But it's one thing getting it when you've got nothing and nobody's really paying any attention to it. It's another thing getting what's going on, understanding it all, when you've got this constant barrage of people dangling carrots in front of your head. Oh, we could do it, you know. Why don't you? My dad's Eddie Hearn must have about 10,000 best mates. Oh, my dad's best mates with Eddie Hearn. Look, Eddie Hearn's a businessman. He's not interested in doing favours for someone he doesn't probably even know. He wants to make the best fights he can. That's his business. That's what he's got.
You've heard that, Martin, haven't you?
Well, me and Hearn, yeah, we're best mates.
You've heard that my such and such friends with Hearn and now get me a contract with him. You've heard
yeah, no, I've had exactly that. I've got someone who's currently going through the process of believing that.
Yeah.
There we go. What do you reckon, or when do you see boxing coming back at this small hall level? I know Steve's kind of flouted the idea March next year, hopefully earlier, December time, vaccine related. What do you guys reckon? Kev, I'm going to start with you because you've been ominously quiet down there.
It all depends. It really depends on when they get some medication rather than a vaccine. Once they stop people dying from this and they've got some way to medicate it, then it will go back quicker than people realise, because the government and everybody wants things to go back and economies to move. So the second they discover some sort of medication that stops people from dying or seriously reduces the risk, then that will be the time it goes back. But whether that's this year, whether that's next week, next month, December or March, who knows? But I think it hinges on that. It all depends on, in the end, it's too widespread. It's never going to disappear, this COVID. It's going to be something you're going to deal with forever, like influenza. It's the same type of flu. It's the same type of, virus. But obviously we've got ways of dealing with the flu, and at the moment we haven't got ways of dealing with COVID. But once we find a way, then that's when it'll go back. But I think it hinges on that, and that's the kicker. I just can't tell you when that'll be.
What do you reckon, Carl? Are you kind of assuming this year or next?
Well, I'm hoping this year because, I mean, I can put like little five. I've got a feeling they're going to limit the capacity, limit the gatherings to probably around 500. That's what I've got a little feeling. Now, I know it ain't ideal, but I would get away with putting a couple of little dinner shows on, 4 or 5 fight cards with a 500 venue. So I'm hoping that I can, because I'm fortunate, I've got kids in all different areas that I can put on in just like I was putting a massive show on in Leicester in Major Scon, a 16 fight card in a 3,000 venue. I mean, it was going to be great, and I was confident I was going to sell it well. But the thing is, I was putting all my East Midlands fighters all on one card and drafting a couple in from other managers. But what I can do is I can break my shows up. I'm fortunate enough to be able to break my shows up and put them on in their own little areas with like 500 people maximum, which I have been doing. It has been quite successful for me. And I've always nicked a few quid from it, to be honest. I don't really lose. It's not a big, you've not got the big risk in that of obviously putting a big show on. So I'm hoping, obviously, if things they allow the gatherings up to 500, then we can do it. But I'm the same as Kev. I mean, until they find a vaccine or a medicine or whatever to deal with this, I mean, how long is it going to go on for? I mean, I know cases are dropping every day in the death rate, but I mean, Big Boris is opening things up quite early, I think. And if we get this second wave, it's going to be a disaster for us all.
Yeah, set us all back.
Before we carry on, we're going to start with part 2, because this is going to finish this particular one. We're going to go again. So I'm going to shut it down and we're going to log back in again.
So finally then, Mickey, what do you reckon in terms, because you run quite a few dinner shows, didn't you? So you could maybe get away with it in the distancing. I was just reading the board document actually about behind closed doors, but they've sent out today. But could you do it differently with a dinner show than perhaps a normal like York Hall style?
Yeah. Well, yeah, yes. No, look, the thing is that the dinner shows used to be a big thing. I took over the boxing at Cafe Royal because they were struggling a bit with boxing. And I actually came in. They just said, look, just do one show and we'll see how it goes. Because I said I was already at a different hotel running boxing events, and I said, if I'm going to come to your hotel, then basically I want a guarantee of X amount of shows and this sort. And they just refused. They just went, no. They said, look, we'll give you one date. If that goes well, then we'll give you more. If it doesn't, then that's it. They reeled off a list of names of people. They said, look, all these people we've tried to run with unsuccessfully. Take it or leave it. So I went with it, and I was there 6 years in the end. And dinner boxing at that time, it was quite profitable. We did actually make profit. It was before the credit crunch. And yeah, it did work quite well.
Do you reckon that model would work again now, kind of post-COVID?
Well, that's the question. I don't know. Look, I also have construction business, so I sort of use the boxing dinners as a way of encouraging business, or sometimes quite often I sort of get paid with like contra deals. So I say, all right, look, I'll give you some tables at a show, you get me this deal.
Yeah.
It works. It used to work a lot more easily. Now they are hard, but I'm like boxing. I love boxing. I need boxing to be part of my life. Boxing's actually helped me out a lot in life. Kept me focused on, sort of keep on the straight and narrow. I need boxing. That's the truth. I need boxing in my life. Maybe the dinner shows will allow that to carry on. I actually really enjoy the dinner shows. It's just that they're a lot harder now than they were financially. When I came in, it was too easy. I said, come in. Mickey Duff gave me his database. I came into Cafe Royal. I had this massive long list. I used to fax the people.
You must have been young then, Mickey.
Full head of hair. That's what boxing promote does to you.
I'm just saying, when Mickey Duff was around, he must have been young.
I knew Mickey Duff when I was a kid. My uncle used to be a lawyer for a boxing promoter in France, and he knew Mickey Duff, and he knew that I lived in London. So I sort of got to know Mickey, and Mickey was like a very, very good teacher of boxing. He just knew, he'd lived that life where he was a boxer himself. He understood the technical side of it. He could. He had like a vision. He could, like I'd say, good matchmaker can look at a boxer, maybe 2 rounds into watching him box, or even halfway through one round, he can say, well, he's got this that's very, very good. His balance is very good. He does this, or he does that very badly, and there's no way he can go places making that mistake. It's just not going to happen. Mickey had that in him, and it helped him a lot. Mickey could guide fighters through because he had that astute brain. It was very sad at the end. He lost his marbles, basically. And then he seemed to go from bad, had very bad days, and then suddenly be back to normal again. And then another day, he'd be like he wouldn't even recognise your, so he helped me. And people used to say about how mean he was and how tight he was, and a lot of negative things about him. I think in boxing, Steve, you've probably had some experience of it. Regardless of how well or badly you do your job, there is a group of people who just do not like the fact that some people are earning money without taking a punch. They're just a promoter, and they're earning a few quid out of it, and they've got it in for the promoter. They slag you off without even knowing who you are or what you're about.
I think it's quite interesting because I know what you say there about people that have issue with the promoters taking money out of it. But without divulging information, I know there's not huge amounts of money at the small hall level, is there? You know, none of you lot are taking millions out of the sport.
Certainly not me.
Do you find that a bit galling when you get the criticism from those that, you know, the ones that say, "Oh, you put shit fights on, your fights aren't good enough"? Well, actually, there's not the money that people might perceive that there is.
Oh, I get annoyed. I just think people that I said this to Mick before when we spoke, and it really pisses me off because, and you know people quite close to you who keep criticising promoters, right? Terry, and I like Terry as a person, but he criticises, and I just want him to go and do a show. Stop criticising people like me, Carl, and Mickey. Go and promote a show and show us how to do it properly. Go and show us so we can copy you and we can bow to you. Why won't they do it? Because they can't.
It wouldn't last 5 minutes.
Huh?
Wouldn't last 5 minutes.
And that's the thing, because I actually say stop criticising, do it. I'd accept criticism. If Mickey wanted to criticise me, I'd accept it. Carl wants to criticise, I'll accept it. Because people have been there and done it. I'm not going to take criticism of somebody who will not put a show on themselves, but says we're making loads of money and the fights we put on are crap and we're only interested in sellers and all that nonsense.
Steve, I think what happens is people walk into a hall, like they go into York Hall even, which isn't like Wembley Arena, it's York Hall. It's like, you know, small hall boxing. They see like over 1,000 people and they work out where it's 40 quid a ticket. Wow, 40 grand. Plus I bet all the sponsors are paying all this money. And, you know, look, we know what the situation in reality is. You know, if you come out in front, you've had a really good day.
Well, I say, nothing off air. Go and speak to Tommy Dove if you think it's easy. Tommy Dove's he was a good man, so I'm not criticising. I think he was a very fair man. He came in with all the right intentions, all the right beliefs. Not one criticism of him. The only sad thing is he didn't stay because he was a good man. But he done his absolute nuts doing it. Nuts.
He lost an absolute fortune. But do you know what? Right at the beginning, I was standing in York Hall and there was some kid that hadn't sold his tickets. And Tommy, and the thing is, look, you know, like if it was a normal business environment, everyone just looks after it. It doesn't, I actually just enjoy it. The money that's there doesn't justify it. And I said to Tommy, I went, Tommy, because he said to this kid, he said, look, if you can sell tickets, that's really nice. I appreciate it. But if you can't, I understand. You know, you're not ticket sellers, you're boxers. And I try to say to him, I went, Tommy, you know, for one, these kids aren't stupid. You know, they'll just think, who's this guy who's piling money in? You know, I can take my hobby forwards without. But until he'd actually, his reaction was, well, you know, I'm going to do it my way, right? It's his money. You can't. He's an adult. I can't say, look, you mustn't do this and you must do that. But I was trying to help him. He's probably still paying off the debts now. I wouldn't be surprised if he's still paying the debts now that he built up. I think he's a cab driver, Tommy. And like you say, very nice guy. Do you know what? He came in. I think he put one of my guys in with one of your guys in one of his shows.
That's right. Yeah.
A very good deal.
It was.
Deal.
But how much can you guys lean upon one another? So Steve, you kind of came into it last out of the three in a promotional sense.
Yeah. So I started off, and obviously what Carl and Mickey said is true. To come into boxing and not have any experience or just be thrown into it, which is what happened to me, is very difficult because whilst I class myself as extremely smart and astute and I pick up things quickly, it's like walking into shark-infested waters. And after I got ripped off on my first show in Milton Keynes, I met Mickey, and Mickey was, I think for the next year, he'd done the matchmaking and a lot of the stuff. And I was able to learn a lot from seeing how Mickey did it because I needed that knowledge. I needed somebody who was going to be able to you're going to learn from. The only way to learn is find out who's been in there a long time and actually employ them and learn from them.
I think you once put it to me that you can't pay for like training or an apprenticeship in boxing. but instead you pay by getting ripped off in the first instance, and then you don't get ripped off again.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And for me, boxing has got to, you know, at the end of the day, I can earn my money, and my money doesn't come from boxing. So at the end of the day, I'm not prepared to chuck a load of money and lose a fortune on it, because that for me is just madness. So but again, the point is what Carl does. Carl's got a brilliant business model because he's outside London. But in London, that business model that Carl's got doesn't work. Small shows, 5, it doesn't work. But when Carl's got it absolutely off to a T, and he's done a brilliant job, so many 140 odd shows. But I mean, I didn't manage fighters for 3 years. I've had like 36 champions, I think it is now, Southern area and above. So I've done, you know, I class myself as, you know, whilst I took the criticism at first that I may not know what I was doing, which is probably quite fair, I learned fast, and it's been a good journey. But you know, now you do look at, you know, I don't have any envy for other promoters. I'm not jealous of them. I think if they do well, that's fantastic. Definitely the people, like when we're talking about people that we're talking to here, you just want people to succeed, because there's no harm in other people succeeding. And so you're not to rip anybody else off. You're there to support. And if they, you know, if you can work together and put the fights on that make sense for all of you, you do it.
Wait a minute, Mickey's just gone vertical there. Oh no, we're back. As this pandemic situation, you know, kind of being away from boxing, has it made any of you consider your future in it? Or Mickey, you kind of alluded to it earlier, is almost you need it more now than you ever needed it.
It confirmed to me what I already knew, is from a business point of view, like as a family man especially, because my wife's had a baby like just like a year and a half ago. You can't really rely on boxing entirely for your income. From my, maybe some people, my position, I can't,
because your income is construction, isn't it? And
it's property management, yeah.
Okay,
yeah. Things like that. And look, those other businesses aren't always reliable. You know, look, we're all going to suffer next year. It's going to be, look, all this income tax, which is not going to be paid because we're not earning anything, is going to hit the country very hard. So we then go to people cap in hand asking for money, you know, like support this venture. I think it is going to be hard. It's going to be very hard. Like I say, I hope that I make enough money in my other things to just keep it ticking over. And Steve, I mean, this is one thing that I would say, if I have a fault in what I do as a promoter, is I will often, even if my guy's got a 1 in 10 chance of winning, I will push the boat out to get it on my own show, to give him especially if I've had him for like a few years, and I think, right, this is his World Cup final. I've got to now put my faith in him and give him 100% the best chance that he can have. And then the guy goes out and he might well get beaten. If he's 10-1 underdog, he might well go. But I think that's the sort of thing that you know, promoters can work together to help each other. That might allow bridges to be built, because coming out of this pandemic situation, I think promoters refusing to build bridges with each other, I think will make an already very, very difficult job almost impossible. So I think we probably are going to end up collaborating a lot more on events and fights, and, you know, all right, you have that fight and I'll have this one. You know, we'll sort of help each other. Who knows? But I can see that happening more and more often, just because I think that the times are going to be tough. Not just boxing, I think all business, but, you know, boxing is like.
What about you, Carl? Has it kind of changed your perspective on the sport and your involvement? Or?
Well, you know what? I've been, like I keep saying, I know, like I'm going to Robert, but I've been very fortunate. I mean, I earned a half decent living from boxing only. You know what I mean? I've got a few little bits and bobs, got a couple of properties, but all my income comes from boxing. But I'm not just a promoter. I'm in the gym every day grafting. I mean, I was in at 7 o'clock this morning, didn't get out there till 11 o'clock. You know what I mean? I'm in the gym grafting. I'm not just a promoter. You don't see I'm at shows and you don't see me in a suit. I'm in the tracksuit in the corners and all that. So I'm a trainer. I do everything. You know what I mean? I do a gym. I do classes. I do personal training. It's all revolves around boxing. My income does. So it is a little bit concerning for me, a little bit worrying. And obviously, if things do start getting bad, I'm going to have to start looking at obviously doing other things. But I've been fortunate since 2006 that all I've ever done is boxing only. I mean, there's not many can say that they've earned a living from boxing only. You know what I mean? 14 years of being in the sport, which I'm fortunate that I've got nothing else to do other than boxing. So I eat, sleep and breathe boxing, you know what I mean? Morning, day. If I'm not in the gym, I'm in the office working on shows. If I'm not in the office, I'm working on the management side of it. So, and if I'm not doing, you know what I mean? It's how it is. But obviously, with what's going on at the moment, and obviously the worry about not putting shows on, and when I'm going to get fighters out, and all that, I'm just going to have to concentrate more on the gym and put more classes in and more PTs in. This is probably where I'm going to have to do, because it's not looking good for promoting in the near future, I don't think. I mean, if we get a show out by the end of the year, we'll all be very, very fortunate.
Yeah. Kev, what do you reckon about kind of the collaboration side of it, as Mickey said there? Do you foresee that? Because you're no longer a promoter, are you? You do the other stuff, everything else that's going on in boxing. Can you foresee that collaboration occurs?
Yeah, I think so. I think it does happen now to a certain extent. I mean, the reason everybody's in this chat now is because obviously, as Cole said earlier on, they own their own promotional companies, but, they all work together and they're friends. So you can see collaboration happen. I think it will happen more. What we don't know is we just don't know what the landscape's going to be like when this gets back. We don't know how many people have lost their jobs. Obviously, the figures have gone from 600,000 to 2.1 million unemployed, which is obviously a big increase. We don't know how people's their spare money they've got to spend on events that obviously these guys would do. We don't know what that situation is going to be like. We don't know what ticket selling is going to be like. So there may be a shift in more co-promotions or collaborations like that. Again, it's really unknown at this stage. We just don't know. We've never had a case study like this before, and we're really going to be treading into uncharted waters when we eventually get back. But we will get back. This won't continue forever, so there will be a point. But I think, as Mickey said, it's going to be a long road back. There's going to be a big economical knockback from this for people's things. And look, there isn't going to be any sympathy for us either. Promoters aren't liked anyway, as Mickey and Cole alluded to anyway. So that there won't be a queue of people, offering their sympathies for it. You take that as part and parcel. But yeah, I do think there'll be more collaboration. But how it will be, again, we'll just have to wait and see. We're really going to be all learning as we go along.
So, off the top of your head, talking about collaboration, I'll ask each of you. Steve, if you had to make one fight with someone from your stable against someone from Carl or Mickey's, what would you pick? Now we're talking about collaboration.
This is going to be difficult just to pull this out of the bag.
I think there's loads of fights for kids that we've got who are upcoming, if you know what I mean. I mean, the point is the ones that I've already got at the high level that are English champions, we're looking to move on past this. So I think there would be quite a lot of fighters who are area champions, area level, that you would match together. Without going through the list of fighters, it'd be hard to say that, because I could go and say Linus Udofia, Brad Pauls. They probably haven't got fighters that I would like to put in with that are worthwhile for those type of fighters. But I can't actually give you one because there's probably quite a lot. If we all sat together with all our lists of fighters,
if we had the list in front of us and worked it all out, great fights.
He would work with him. That's a 50-50. That's fair. And none of us, you don't want to just send anybody to be sacrificed. But as long as it makes sense and it's for something, then I think we can all do it together. I think you've got.
I think, like, with respect to ourselves, me, Steve, and Carl, our business models are quite similar. So we tend to build these guys up, and then you go and take them for the biggest payday possible, which isn't normally for me to put one on Steve or Carl's shows, or for them to put them on mine. It's normally go to Frank Warren, go to Eddie Hearn, maybe play Eddie Hearn off against Frank Warren to get who's going to pay the most money for this fight. So there probably, I think there will be opportunities.
You're going to get kids that I've got that are, let's say, at 6-0, and you're at 6-0, and we can't do the normal building because they won't sell the tickets anymore.
Yes, that's exactly.
The best one's got to go on.
Yeah.
So we put them together for an area title, knowing the winner's going to go on. You know, that's the sort of thing I'm thinking.
The only thing is, I don't like putting kids in 10 rounders after they've only had 6 fights. I know you like
8 or whatever, yeah, maybe 8.
Early. I, as a rule, if you look at my guys, I get them 10 fights just because, and this isn't.
Yeah, I'm the same, Mickey, to be honest.
What are you going to do, guys? What are you going to do, guys, when these 6-0s can't sell anymore?
It's very hard. It's very, you lose money on them. If you believe in the kid can do something on a higher level.
They're a year away from the end of the contract. You know you could give them 2 or 3
Yeah.
fights. No contract extension. Are you going to throw money? I'm talking real now. I'm not talking when they can walk.
Steve, what I would normally do is, if it was a year from the end of the contract, I'd say to the boxer, look, sign a new contract.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yes, and I'll put some goodwill into it as well. I'll put some money to maybe cover financially, but I wouldn't necessarily say that I've got it right by doing that, because kids that I have done that for and that have been guided very carefully and well and end up top of the bill on Sky Sports, on Matchroom with BT, they then don't necessarily pay you back anyway. It's not like you get, oh, thanks, you've done a great job for me. I had one last year which was quite highly publicised. I mean, Senior Byfield. I didn't sign my contract. We had to go to the board. I mean, I won the court, the tribunal with the board, but that's the level of no thanks that you get. You know, I mean, he couldn't sell tickets, no problem. I could see in him like the future that we could have if we played it a certain way. We did that. He didn't come to me at the end and go, oh, cheers. You know, I never won the ABAs, never even won the home counties ABAs, but I fought top of the bill on Sky Sports for the British title. He would say he got that because he was such a great fighter. I would say, well, there was a lot of string pulling and ducking and avoiding that fight, and knowing that if I put that first bid in, I'll probably win it, but it's not so high that they will just let their fighter fight for it.
Well, I think it will be different, Mick. I think that you are going to there'll be some kids that carry on as they are, but we are going to get the problem of these 5-0s to 7-0 who are now stuck, who are going to either pack up or we've got to match them for something. So I think some fighters will have to take the harder fights earlier. I think that's going to happen. That could be a consequence of this.
Well, there you go. We'll do a follow-up where you print out all your stable and then we'll come back and match them up. One question I had from Twitter was a lad called Baldy, who asked, who's the biggest wanker you've ever worked with for each of you? So I need to ask this question. I can't let that go. Steve, okay. I could take a punt who you're going to go with.
Do you need to ask me that question?
The one with the glorious locks?
Steve Goodwin's my one.
Who's got the glorious locks?
You've got us all thinking now.
I know what you're talking about, but there's no way I'm torpedoing this.
He's got the glorious locks. I wasn't thinking of that.
He's currently I think he might be the African Union champion. Fought for an IBO recently.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Who's the, sorry.
He's boxing royalty.
He's a bit of royalty.
Not Prince Patel. Ah, right, okay. Yeah, they're all not often.
Did you have him, Mickey, as well?
No, I didn't. No, I missed out.
But he was the most. He was the most difficult to deal with, and his behaviour, both during and after, was really not acceptable for various reasons. So I was very disappointed in him.
But he's undefeated in Hungary, so good luck to him.
He's actually not a bad lad, though, away from the cameras. He hasn't been bad. That's the trouble. That's the frustrating thing, I think, with him, is he's actually not a bad lad in terms of if you get him on your own talking to him. Yeah, that's the trouble, yeah.
He can be a total dick.
Yeah.
No, I dealt with him, but I did see, I think he put quite a lot on social media at the time, and I did think probably one that's good to follow, like, from a spectator's point of view rather than a manager.
Yeah. Do you know what, though? He was a massive contradiction, but I wasn't actually thinking of him, mine. That wasn't going to be my answer.
Was it not? Okay.
No, but it probably he would be the most difficult person I've had to deal with. I'll take the swear word out, but the most awkward person to deal with, and not the most pleasant, really.
There's no good answers that come out of that question, Martin. There is no good answers. I'll save the promoters here. There's no good answer to that.
There are plenty of good answers. You're just not going to give them.
Yeah. There's none that I can.
Difficult, you two guys. You had any difficult people to deal with that were more trouble than they were worth?
I'll tell you one, and it's going back a few years now, and you guys will know him. His name's Jonathan Fowl.
Yeah.
Oh.
You know it. I tell you what, listen, I'm easy going. When I go, but I'm easy going. Right, you lads know I'm easy going. I had to threaten him. I don't like saying it. I've never ever been so angry in my life in boxing. I got him on the phone, and I swear to God, if it had been, I'll tell you what, I just, the thought of it now, I was effing and blind. I was going off my head. I was roaming around the kitchen with my phone in my hand, going, "Oh, he killed you," and I was going off my head. It was over some Ghanaian boxer. He stitched me up somewhere, and I'll never ever forget that. But other than that, I've lost my head once or twice, but that one sticks in my mind. I tell you, I was so angry. The worst kind of
I ran a couple of shows with Jonathan Feld. I had a few dealings, and do you know what? I made money dealing with him, but probably 5 years later, I was still getting phone calls from people saying, "Do you know where that Jonathan Feld is?"
Yeah.
He was before my time, but I went to a Tottenham Amateur show about 5-6 years ago, and this guy came up to me and he said, "Oh, I've seen you in boxing. I used to be a top manager promoter, and we could do this together." Anyway, I said, "What was his name?" And it was this guy, Jonathan Feld. And I went back and I told somebody, I said, "This guy came up to me called Jonathan Feld," and I got this horrific, "Oh my God, stay clear." Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, I'm going to go back to you. When I won the WBF World title, he was involved with this Ghanaian kid. And he was involved with the WBF somehow. I can't remember if he was a president.
He was the president. He was the president of it.
So what happened is I won the title. It was a lovely bout. I mean, the bout's there, actually. You can see here. I won the bout. And he said to me, he wasn't there on the night. He was just passed away, actually. His name's Alex Papapeyo. He's from Ghana. He just passed away from the COVID, actually. Kofi, you know the Ghanaian Kofi. It was his cousin. Well, he used to come and present the bowls. Anyway, I won the bowl, and he said, "Oh, you can't take this belt on the night." He said, "We've got to take it back." So I was on at this Jonathan foul for ages. "Jonathan, I want my belt. I want my belt. I've won the title. I've paid the sanction fees and all that." He was giving me the runaround for weeks. He finally arranged for me to go. I had to go to London on the train. Obviously, pay the train fare, and meet this Alex Papapeo and collect the belt. And he said he'd give me my train fare, but it was only 100 quid or whatever it was. But it was just from that day onwards, I thought, mate, you're just wronging, you know what I mean? And me chasing me, running around from the world title belt on the train, having to pay my own train fare, and oh, it was pathetic. And since that day, it always stuck in my head. And when he come on board, I thought, no, mate, you're getting it, you are.
I feel like Carl's going to go and ring him after this. Take it back out on him.
I've not spoke to him for years and years. I don't know where he is, what he's doing.
Before we run out of time for the last one, I was going to ask each of you, what is it you get or you're looking forward to getting out of boxing when it comes back? Aside from, like, you know, for Carl, the income side of the training, the gym, all that, but the one thing that you get out of boxing that isn't money related whatsoever, what is it you're looking forward to for the personal satisfaction?
Well, I just I feel sorry for all the fighters. I mean, I've got a few coming back to the gym, and I've got some very, very dedicated lads. I mean, obviously, I only train. I've got a stable of about 40. I train about 9 of them. I've got some and they're all ringing me, "Oh, Carl, when I'm going to be out, and it's just so sad not being able to give them a date. So when we can finally give them a date and say, look, lads, this is the home fighters. Obviously, you're going to be boxing here. I mean, I can just see on the faces going to light up. And that's what's going to be so satisfying for me, knowing that I can get the lads out. Because at the minute, nobody's got any answers. We can't tell them anything. They're ringing us up when I'm going to be boxing and all that, but we just can't give them no answers.
Yeah. What about you, Mickey? What are you looking forward to out of it?
I had Philip Bowes versus Akeem Ennis Brown lined up.
Yeah.
First, we made the fight.
That's a British title, isn't it?
I won. I'm trying to cast my memory back. I think I won the purse bids. I went to purse. He's managed by MTK, so we went to purse bids, and I won the purse bid. So then I was going to put it on my show. Phil Bowes had a problem with his urine test.
On the day, wasn't it?
He passed the urine test, and on the day of the fight, it wasn't even a phone call, it was a text message saying, Phil Bowes, there's like a medical issue. I don't think you're allowed to be open with medical. Yeah, it was a medical issue. With the specifics of it, the laboratory's just called us that they've spotted something, and he must come in and have this test, and he must not box. This is on the day of the fight.
On the day, that is just heartbreaking.
Right. So I've got my whole show. That's the top of the bill. Like, my whole show is now in basically in tatters. I just went ahead with the show. I rang the board, the doctors. I mean, but Phil, I know his family. I know him for a long time. I've worked with him. You know, like we were saying before we come on there, you know, their health has to come first. You know, we all love boxing. We love the glory, the excitement, good things that come out of it. But I had no option, you know, so I rang up. So the fight gets cancelled. We then renegotiated with MTK. They paid us a bit more money. They added to Phil's purse. They're going to promote it on their Sky date. Then COVID-19. Show got cancelled. It was literally, they'd done the press conference the day they announced no more events. We just done the press conference that morning. Done the press conference. And then no more boxing.
Crazy.
I look forward to seeing him get his big fight.
Getting his fight that he's been waiting on.
Yeah.
What about you, Steve? What's the thing you're looking forward to getting back into the sport for?
Just the title opportunities that fighters that are there. Kay Prosper getting his shot, something above the English. Dion Juma getting his long-awaited crack at the British title. Hopefully Riakporhe. Linus Udofian moving on from English to British title honours. You know, they're the sort of things, and people like Brad Paul, Sean Robinson, people like that, Adrian Martin, people like that who are now on the verge of going into titles. We've got many of them now starting to move them into title contention. Liam Dillon, Dennis Wahome at super featherweight moving on, English title. You know, there's loads of them, but loads of them.
Yeah, it's funny, really. You're talking like that with them names at that sort of level, Steve, because I mean, it's like I'm in the transition period at the moment where I'm back to like, I mean, I've probably got 5 or 6 fighters on that sort of level, but most of mine now, I'm building back up and at that stage where they're all like 5, 6, 7, 8 and 0. You know what I mean? It's strange for me. So, because I've always had kids fighting at title level, championship level, and I've only got a few now, really, that I could put in at that sort of level. I've got a couple of champions. It's a strange period for me. So obviously having this COVID-19 obviously not been able to promote is very tough for me because, well, it's the same for you all really, but obviously I was on the way of just building my fight back up to championship level, and obviously I have to put shows on for me to be able to do that. So it's very strange, but if you've got kids at championship level, the opportunity and offers you're going to get is from TV promoters. But like you say, Steve, it's got to be on a level playing field. They've got to give you the right amount of notice. You've got to have everything, like, not just stacked in their favour all the time. Because you know yourself on these TV shows, everything's stacked in their favour. You know what I mean? You've got to start putting your foot down. And this is where, like, the likes of Mickey and yourself, experience, this is where you've got to put your foot down, you know what I mean? And say, look, I'm happy to take the fight, but it's got to be on a level playing field. We want the same amount of notice, you know what I mean? The money's got to be right. It's got to be sensible, you know what I mean? And this is where we're at.
Kev, what are you most looking forward to?
Everything. I just get back to normal, Martin. Really, for me, look, I'm a boxing fan. I get to work in pro boxing, and it's it's sort of a pleasure for me. It's a thing, I grew up watching people like Cole and stuff like that. Watching it on the telly and now get involved in it. So the fact to be able to just be back to normality is good. Look, hopefully we can grow to a point where we're doing bigger stuff coming out of small hall. That's the ultimate dream. Obviously, we did a couple with Hay at the O2 and that, which was good fun. So hopefully more of that. But I just enjoy being in this thing. It's it's a decent thing and it's fun to do. So it's frustrating points, but it's fun to do.
Yeah. Right, we're out of time, gents. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for your time.
Thanks. No worries.
Yes.